Captain Amanda Maverick Mitchell stood motionless on the bridge of the ECS Hyperion, her weathered hands gripping the command rail as she watched the massive holographic display before her. Countless red dots filled the screen, each representing the Zextal warship. Their crystalline fleet stretched across space like a glittering web of death, blocking out the distant stars. "Tactical, give me the numbers," she ordered, her voice steady, despite the weight pressing down on her shoulders. Lieutenant Rodriguez's fingers danced across his console. 10,217 hostile vessels, Captain. Their forward elements will reach our maximum engagement range in 43 minutes. Mitchell nodded, suppressing a grim smile. An entire alien armada against one experimental battleship. The brass really had lost their minds this time. Or maybe they knew something she didn't. The bridge crew worked in focused silence, broken only by the soft hum of the Hyperion's quantum core and the occasional status update. They were Earth's last line of defense, the final card in humanity's hand. The rest of the fleet lay scattered across the void, broken and defeated in battles stretching from Mars to Neptune. "Captain," Communications Officer Davis called out, her voice tight with tension. "Priority transmission from UAG Command. Eyes only." Mitchell's neural implant pinged as the encrypted message arrived. Her authorization codes unlocked the data packet, and her eyes widened as she read. The Ghost Protocol wasn't what they'd been told. It wasn't just another weapons system. It was something else entirely. "Get me Chief Engineer Thompson," she ordered, keeping her voice level. "Secure channel." Moments later, Jake Lucky Thompson's hologram appeared beside her. His normally cheerful face was streaked with grease and concern. "Captain, please tell me you've got good news about this damn quantum core. It's acting stranger by the minute." "Jake, what do you know about consciousness-driven quantum states?" Thompson's expression shifted from worry to disbelief. "The Schrödinger hypothesis. That's just theoretical. Wait." He paused, his eyes darting back and forth as he processed the implications. "The Ghost Protocol. It's not just a defensive system, is it?" "No," Mitchell confirmed. "According to this, the quantum core was designed to interface directly with human consciousness. The whole ship becomes one massive quantum object, existing in a state of probability rather than fixed spacetime." "That's impossible," Thompson whispered, but his hands were already moving across his tools. "The energy requirements alone would be exactly what we're seeing in the core's fluctuations," Mitchell finished. "How fast can you reconfigure the system?" A new alert flashed across the tactical display. The Zextal fleet was accelerating, their crystalline ships catching the light of Earth's sun like a wave of diamonds. 20 minutes, Thompson said. "Maybe 15 if I redline everything and pray the containment holds." Mitchell straightened, her decision made. "You've got 10. After that, we either make history or become it." She turned to her crew, raising her voice. "All hands, this is the captain. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but right now, impossible is exactly what Earth needs." As she explained the true nature of their mission, Mitchell watched her crew's expressions change from disbelief to determination. They were about to attempt something no species had ever tried. Turning a battleship into a quantum anomaly, guided by human consciousness itself. "Helm, maintain position," she ordered. "Tactical, passive sensors only. Let them think we're paralyzed with fear." She allowed herself a small smile. "We're about to show the Zextal why they should have been afraid of us instead." In the engineering section, Thompson's team worked with desperate speed to reconfigure the quantum core. On the bridge, Mitchell watched the enemy fleet approach and thought about the 17 billion lives depending on them. One ship against an armada. But sometimes, she reflected, the universe's greatest changes began with a single quantum shift. The Zextal fleet's opening salvo lit up space like a new constellation. Thousands of crystalline energy beams converged on the Hyperion's position, their light so intense it forced the bridge windows to polarize fully. Impact in 3, 2, 1. Lieutenant Rodriguez's count stopped abruptly as the impossible happened. Every single beam passed through the Hyperion as if it were a ghost. Captain Mitchell felt a strange tingling sensation throughout her body, like static electricity mixed with déjà vu. The quantum core's hum had changed to a haunting resonance that seemed to vibrate in her bones. "Thompson," she called over the comm, "please tell me that was intentional." "Technically, yes," his voice crackled back, strained but excited. "The core's interfacing with our consciousness, just like the specs suggested. But Captain, you need to see these readings. We're not just avoiding their fire. We're existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously." A second wave of enemy fire approached, and Mitchell felt an inexplicable urge to shift the ship slightly port. She didn't give the order verbally. She simply thought it. The Hyperion moved precisely as she'd imagined, causing another barrage to pass harmlessly through their previous position. Did anyone else just feel that? Helm Officer Parker asked, her hands hovering above her now inactive controls. "I swear the ship responded to my thoughts about evasive patterns." "It's responding to all of us," Mitchell realized. "Our collective consciousness is steering us through quantum possibilities." "Thompson, what's our status?" "The quantum field is stable, but it's doing more than we expected. We're generating probability waves that are affecting nearby space. Look at your tactical display." Mitchell's eyes widened as she watched the holographic representation of their situation. The Hyperion wasn't appearing as a single point anymore. It was showing up in multiple locations simultaneously, each position equally real and equally false until observed. The Zextal fleet's precise formations began to break down as their targeting systems failed to compute the Hyperion's true location. Their crystalline ships, usually moving in perfect geometric patterns, scattered in confusion. "They can't track what they can't pin down," Rodriguez said with a growing smile. "Their whole combat doctrine is based on mathematical certainty. We're hitting them with pure quantum uncertainty." Mitchell felt the ship's potential movements in her mind like phantom limbs, each possibility equally real. "Let's show them what uncertainty really means. All hands. Don't fight your instincts. Let the ship feel your intentions." The Hyperion danced through space like a ghost through walls. Where the crew collectively expected to be, they were, and weren't. They existed in a combat waltz of quantum superposition, appearing briefly to fire their weapons before shifting back into probability. On the main display, they watched a Zextal cruiser fire at one of their possible positions, only to have the Hyperion materialize behind it and deliver a killing blow before vanishing again. The alien ship's crystalline structure shattered, its pieces sparkling as they scattered across the void. "Message from the Zextal flagship," Davis announced. They're demanding to know what kind of technology we're using. They're calling it an affront to physical law." Mitchell laughed. "Send them this response. It's not technology you're failing to understand. It's humanity." The bridge crew worked in seamless synchronization, their shared consciousness guiding the ship through impossible maneuvers. Where computer targeting would have taken seconds, their collective intuition acted in microseconds. The Hyperion struck from angles that shouldn't have existed, disappeared before retaliatory fire could connect, and materialized exactly where the enemy least expected. Multiple Zextal ships breaking formation. Rodriguez reported with barely contained excitement. "Their fleet coordination is falling apart. They can't maintain their crystal lattice combat structure while trying to track us." Mitchell felt the truth of their advantage in her bones. The Zextal's greatest strength, their rigid adherence to mathematical precision, had become their critical weakness against an enemy that bent probability itself. "Keep pushing," she ordered. "Let's show them why they should have feared the unknown." Chief Engineer Jake Thompson braced himself against his workstation as another probability wave rippled through the Hyperion's engineering deck. Holographic readouts surrounded him, each displaying quantum states that shouldn't have been possible. The entire engine room hummed with an otherworldly resonance, like the ship itself was singing in frequencies beyond human hearing. "Lock down those containment fields," he shouted as the quantum core pulsed with impossible colors. "If we lose coherence now, we'll scatter our atoms across half the universe." His engineering team moved with practiced precision, even as reality flickered around them. Sarah Kelly, his quantum specialist, worked furiously at the containment controls, her hands dancing across holographic interfaces that shifted between multiple states of existence. "Jake," she called out, "these readings are off the charts. The core isn't just generating a quantum field, it's creating a cascading effect. Every conscious decision we make is splitting reality into new quantum branches." Thompson moved to her station, his eyes widening at the data. The quantum core's original design had been revolutionary enough. But this was beyond anything they'd imagined. The ship wasn't just avoiding enemy fire. It was actively exploring every possible reality, and choosing the most advantageous one. "Get me the captain," he said, keying his comm. "Mitchell, you're not going to believe this. The Ghost Protocol, it's not working the way we thought. It's working better." "Explain." Mitchell's voice came through, tense with concentration, as she guided the ship through another impossible maneuver. "The quantum core isn't just responding to our consciousness, it's learning from it. Every time we make a decision, every time we intuitively move the ship, we're teaching it how to manipulate probability itself. The more we use it." A massive impact rocked the ship, sending sparks flying from nearby conduits. Reality snapped back into focus for a moment as their quantum field fluctuated. "Status," Thompson demanded, already moving toward the core housing. "Direct hit to our starboard quantum projector," Kelly reported. "The Zextal are adapting, targeting all our possible positions simultaneously. Field stability at 60% and dropping." Thompson reached the core housing and yanked open an access panel. The crystalline matrix inside pulsed with energies that hurt his eyes to look at directly. But there, in the patterns of quantum possibility, he saw something that made his breath catch. "Captain," he called out, "I need you to get every crew member to focus on the same thought. Right now, everyone needs to imagine the ship exactly where they want it to be. The whole crew." "Why?" "Trust me, I'm seeing something in the quantum matrix. Human consciousness doesn't just influence quantum states, it creates them. We're not limited to choosing between existing possibilities. We're creating new ones." Mitchell's voice came through shipwide this time. "All hands, focus your thoughts. Imagine us behind their flagship, every one of you. Do it now." Thompson watched the quantum readings spike as hundreds of minds focused on a single possibility. The core's crystal matrix began to resonate at frequencies he'd never seen before. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. "My God," Kelly whispered, staring at her readings. "The quantum field isn't just affecting us anymore. It's spreading to their ships." Thompson grinned as he understood what was happening. Of course, their ships are crystalline, quantum-sensitive by nature. We're not just moving through probability, we're forcing them to exist in quantum superposition too. The engineering deck shuddered as the Hyperion executed its impossible maneuver, but this time something was different. The Zextal ships near them began to flicker, their crystalline structures resonating with the quantum field generated by human consciousness. "Captain," Thompson called out, excitement overwhelming his exhaustion, "tell the crew to keep focusing. We're not just avoiding their attacks anymore. We're about to show them what happens when you put a crystalline fleet into quantum superposition with a human consciousness guiding the outcome." In the core housing, the crystal matrix pulsed with new purpose, as if the ship itself had awakened to its true potential. They weren't just fighting a battle anymore, Thompson realized. They were rewriting the laws of reality, one human thought at a time. Multiple contacts, 12 distinct positions. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice carried an edge of disbelief as he watched the tactical display. The Hyperion wasn't just appearing in one place anymore. Quantum echoes of the ship surrounded the Zextal fleet's forward elements, each manifestation equally real until observed. Captain Mitchell felt them all. Each version of the ship existed in her mind like overlapping photographs, and somehow she knew her crew was experiencing the same sensation. Their collective consciousness had transformed the Hyperion into something that defied conventional physics. Zextal fleet is attempting to regroup, Rodriguez reported. They're shifting to a spherical defense formation. Mitchell allowed herself a grim smile. Perfect. They're about to learn why boxing in a quantum ghost is a bad idea. She opened the ship-wide channel. All hands, remember Thompson's discovery. Focus your intentions. See the ship where you want it to be. The crystalline alien vessels, each a masterpiece of mathematical precision, arranged themselves into intricate geometric patterns. Their formation would have been impenetrable to any normal attack. A sphere of overlapping fields and firing solutions that left no angle uncovered. They're charging weapons, Davis announced from communications. Energy readings off the scale. Let them, Mitchell said calmly. Everyone. Imagine us everywhere at once. The sensation was indescribable. Every crew member felt their consciousness expand as the quantum field responded to their collective will. On the tactical display, the Hyperion's signal multiplied rapidly, creating a quantum mirror of the Zextal's own formation. The alien fleet fired, their crystalline energy beams lancing out in all directions at once. But the Hyperion existed in all those directions, and none of them. Probability waves collapsing and reforming faster than light itself. Holy shit, Parker whispered from the helm. We're not just dodging anymore. Look. The Zextal beams were passing through their own ships now, the Hyperion's quantum field forcing the crystalline vessels into states of quantum uncertainty. Ships that had existed as solid matter moments before began to flicker and phase, their precise formations dissolving into chaos. Thompson to bridge. The engineer's voice crackled with static and excitement. Captain, their crystalline technology is resonating with our quantum field. Every time they fire, they're actually strengthening our effect on their ships. Mitchell watched as a Zextal cruiser tried to track one of their phantom positions, only to find its weapons passing through its own allies. The alien fleet's perfect geometric formation began to break apart as ships lost coherence with normal spacetime. Incoming transmission, Davis called out. The Zextal commander. They're demanding to know how we're violating the laws of physics. Send them this response, Mitchell said, standing from her command chair. We're not violating the laws of physics. We're showing you the ones you never understood. The battle transformed into something beyond traditional space combat. The Hyperion danced through probability space, each movement guided by the unified will of its crew. Where they collectively believed they would be most effective, there they were. The ship existed as pure potential, striking from angles that couldn't exist in normal space. Multiple Zextal ships phasing out of normal space. Rodriguez reported, his tactical display showing dozens of alien vessels flickering between states of existence. Their quantum resonance is cascading through their entire battle group. Mitchell felt the truth of their advantage in her bones. The Zextal had built their empire on technological superiority, on ships that operated with perfect mathematical precision. But faced with an enemy that turned uncertainty itself into a weapon, their greatest strength had become their undoing. Keep pressing, she ordered, feeling the ship respond to her thoughts even as she spoke. Show them what happens when they face an enemy that doesn't play by their rules of reality. Above Earth, space itself seemed to shiver as human consciousness reshaped the possibilities of what was real and what wasn't. The Hyperion had become more than a ship. It was humanity's answer to the question of whether the impossible could become possible. And the answer was a resounding yes. The bridge of the Hyperion had become a nexus of impossibilities. Holographic displays flickered between multiple states as reality itself struggled to keep up with the quantum chaos they'd unleashed. Captain Mitchell watched as probability waves rippled through space, distorting the very fabric of the universe around them. Thompson, she called through the quantum-warped comm system. Explain what I'm seeing. Why are their ships fragmenting? The engineer's response came through in waves of clarity, like a radio signal fighting through static. It's beautiful, Captain. They're crystalline tech. It's perfectly ordered, perfectly structured. But we're forcing quantum uncertainty into that perfect order. It's like throwing a stone into a pool of glass. A massive Zextal dreadnought fired its main weapon directly at them. Mitchell felt rather than saw the correct response. The entire crew's consciousness moved as one, shifting the Hyperion not just out of harm's way, but into a state of being that caused the energy beam to twist back on itself, catching 3 enemy ships in its redirected path. More than that, Thompson continued, his voice charged with revelation. Every time they try to lock onto us, their targeting systems have to measure our position. And you know what quantum mechanics says about measurement. It affects the outcome. Lieutenant Rodriguez finished, understanding dawning on his face as he watched his tactical display dissolve and reform. We're not just avoiding their attacks. Their attempts to track us are actually creating more quantum possibilities for us to exploit. The space around the Hyperion had become a storm of probability. Zextal ships flickered in and out of existence as the quantum field expanded, their perfectly ordered crystal matrices unable to maintain coherence in the face of pure uncertainty. New contact, Davis shouted from communications. Massive power signature. They're bringing in their flagship. The vessel that emerged from superluminal travel was a sight to behold. A crystalline structure the size of a small moon, its faceted surfaces reflecting starlight like a diamond in space. But even as it appeared, the quantum field caught it, and its edges began to blur with possibility. They still don't understand, Mitchell said, watching the massive ship approach. They think size and power will save them. Thompson, what happens if we push this quantum field to its limit? Theoretically, we could create a cascade effect. Their entire fleet's crystalline structure is quantum sensitive. If we can force enough uncertainty into their system, a barrage of energy beams from the flagship cut him off. The Hyperion's crew reacted instinctively, their shared consciousness pushing the ship into a quantum state that didn't just avoid the attack. It existed in perfect opposition to it. Where the beams predicted they would be, they were somewhere else. Where the Zextal anticipated their movement, they had already moved. But this time, something new happened. The quantum field didn't just affect the Hyperion. It rippled through space like a wave of pure probability, catching the flagship in its wake. The massive crystalline vessel began to shimmer, its structure trying to exist in too many states at once. My God, Thompson breathed. Captain, look at the readings. The quantum field, it's not just affecting their ships anymore. It's affecting probability itself in this entire sector of space. Mitchell watched as reality seemed to fold in on itself around the Zextal fleet. Ships began to fade from one position to another, their crew unable to maintain control as quantum uncertainty rewrote the rules of their existence. This is beyond weapons, she realized. Beyond warfare. We're not destroying their fleet. We're redistributing it across quantum space itself. Every possible position they could occupy. They now do occupy, spread so thin across probability that they can't maintain coherence in any single reality. The flagship's crystalline surface had become a kaleidoscope of possibilities, each facet reflecting a different quantum state. Its massive form flickered like a mirage, existing everywhere and nowhere at once. All hands, Mitchell called, her voice steady despite the unreality surrounding them. Focus your thoughts one last time. Let's show them what happens when you corner humanity into discovering the impossible. Around them, space itself held its breath, waiting to see which possibility would become reality. The Zextal flagship hung in space like a fractured diamond, its crystalline surface reflecting thousands of quantum possibilities. Captain Mitchell could see the alien admiral's desperation in the way the massive vessel's weapons charge, not in sequence, but all at once, drawing power from systems that were never meant to fire simultaneously. They're going to try to saturate all possible positions, Rodriguez reported, his hands dancing across displays that showed reality splintering around them. Energy readings are, Captain, I've never seen anything like this. They're pushing their systems beyond safe limits. Thompson's voice cut through the quantum static. Captain, this is it. This is exactly what we need. Their desperation is going to give us more energy than we could have ever generated on our own. Mitchell understood instantly. They're going to create the perfect quantum cascade. All hands, brace for impact but maintain focus. Their attack is about to become our greatest weapon. The Zextal flagship's surface blazed with energy, each crystalline facet becoming a weapon unto itself. Around it, the remaining fleet moved into formation, their own weapons charging in synchronized harmony. It was a sight that should have been beautiful, if it hadn't been aimed at Earth's last hope. Incoming transmission, Davis called out, her voice tight. The Zextal Admiral. Your quantum tricks end now. No ship can survive existing in every quantum state at once. We will fill all possibilities with death. Mitchell allowed herself a grim smile. Send response. Thank you for the energy donation. The space between the fleets erupted. Thousands of crystalline energy beams converged from every possible angle, creating a web of destruction that should have been impossible to survive. But the Hyperion's crew had moved beyond conventional possibility. Now, Thompson shouted. Everyone, imagine the energy becoming part of our quantum field. The crew's collective consciousness surged. Instead of trying to dodge the overwhelming barrage, they embraced it. The Hyperion's quantum field resonated with the incoming energy, transforming from a defensive barrier into something else entirely, a lens that focused probability itself. Reality shuddered. The energy meant to destroy them instead catalyzed with their quantum field, creating a cascade effect that rippled through space-time. The Zextal ships, their crystalline structures already sensitized to quantum effects, began to phase in and out of existence rapidly. Thompson. Mitchell called out as her ship groaned around her. What's happening? It's beautiful, he responded, awe in his voice. Their attack energy is amplifying our field exponentially. The quantum uncertainty is propagating through their entire fleet through their own crystalline networks. They're spreading themselves across quantum space. On the tactical display, Zextal ships began to fade like ghosts. Not exploding, not breaking apart, simply becoming less and less present in any single reality. The flagship, source of the massive energy discharge, was the first to show the full effect. Its massive form flickered like a faulty hologram, each facet reflecting a different quantum state until the entire vessel seemed to exist in 1,000 places at once. They're not being destroyed, Mitchell realized, watching the impossible sight. They're being redistributed across quantum possibilities, spread so thin across alternate realities that they can't maintain coherence in any single one. The quantum cascade spread like a wave through space, catching squadron after squadron of Zextal ships in its effect. Their perfect crystalline formations became their undoing, each ship's quantum destabilization triggering the next in a chain reaction of probability. Zextal Admiral is trying to transmit, Davis reported, her voice barely containing her excitement. But the message is coming from multiple quantum states simultaneously. I'm getting fragments. Impossible. Human consciousness. Reality itself. The bridge crew watched in awe as their enemy's overwhelming force dissipated not into destruction, but into quantum possibility. Where once there had been a fleet of 10,000 ships, now there was only quantum uncertainty, spreading their existence so thin across parallel realities that they became ghost ships, unable to affect any single timeline. Status report, Mitchell ordered, her voice steady despite the unreality surrounding them. The quantum cascade is stabilizing, Thompson responded. But Captain, we've done more than win a battle. We've just rewritten the rules of what's possible. Above Earth, space slowly began to calm, though reality would never be quite the same again. Captain Mitchell stood at the observation deck of the Hyperion, watching the quantum aftershocks ripple through space, where the mighty Zextal fleet had been. Probability waves still danced like aurora borealis against the backdrop of stars. Each shimmer represented thousands of ships spread impossibly thin across infinite realities. Thompson joined her at the window, his engineer's eyes analyzing the phenomenon even now. "You know what the most incredible part is, Captain. We didn't actually destroy them. Technically, they still exist, just not in any single reality we can access." "Explain it to me," Mitchell said, though the knowledge seemed to float at the edges of her consciousness, a gift from their quantum communion with the ship. "It's like—" Thompson paused, gathering his thoughts. "Imagine reality as a book. Before today, we thought we could only read one page at a time. The Zextal, with all their crystalline technology, they were masters of reading their single page perfectly. But what we did, we learned to read all the pages at once, and then we scattered their fleet across every page in the book." Lieutenant Rodriguez approached, holding a datapad displaying the latest sensor readings. "The quantum field is finally stabilizing. But these readings, they challenge everything we thought we knew about physics. The consciousness connection wasn't just a control mechanism. It was the key to everything. Because human consciousness already exists in a quantum state," Mitchell said, the revelation crystallizing in her mind. "Our ability to imagine, to consider multiple possibilities simultaneously. We were already quantum computers, weren't we?" "Exactly." Thompson's eyes lit up. "The Zextal, for all their technological advancement, built their empire on precision and certainty. But human consciousness naturally deals in uncertainty, in possibility. We don't just accept quantum superposition. We live it every time we imagine different outcomes, every time we create art or music or literature." Davis joined them, her communication console temporarily quiet after hours of frantic activity. "The last fragments we received from the Zextal flagship, they weren't just messages of defeat. They were expressions of incomprehension. They couldn't understand how we could willingly embrace uncertainty." The quantum ripples in space pulsed, as if in response to their discussion. Each wave carried echoes of possibility, fragments of realities where the battle had played out differently. But in every reality where human consciousness had guided the quantum field, the result had been the same. "We should have seen it sooner," Thompson continued, his hands moving as he explained. "The double-slit experiment, quantum entanglement, all those weird quantum behaviors that seem to defy classical physics, they were all pointing to this. Consciousness doesn't just observe quantum states, it can influence them. We just needed the right technology to amplify that ability to a macro scale." Mitchell touched the window, feeling the subtle vibrations of reality still settling into its new configuration. "And the Ghost Protocol was designed to do exactly that," Thompson finished. "Not just as a weapon, but as a key to understanding our own nature. We didn't beat the Zextal with superior firepower or better tactics. We beat them by being human, by embracing the uncertainty they feared." A junior officer hurried up to them, carrying new sensor data. "Captain, we're detecting quantum echoes from some of the displaced ships. It's like they're existing in fragments across multiple dimensions. The crew members, they're alive, just distributed." Mitchell nodded, unsurprised. "Because we didn't destroy them. We showed them a truth they weren't ready to accept, that reality isn't as solid as they thought. That consciousness itself can reshape what's possible." She turned to face her crew, seeing in their eyes the same understanding that had come to her. They had done more than save Earth. They had discovered something fundamental about human nature and its relationship with reality itself. "Send a message to Earth," she ordered. Tell them that humanity just opened a door we can never close. And on the other side of that door lies every possibility we can imagine." The quantum ripples continued to dance across space, a testament to the day humanity learned that consciousness itself was the greatest force in the universe. 3 days after the battle, the Hyperion's observation deck had become an impromptu meeting room for an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from 5 alien species stood in awe, watching the continuing quantum phenomena where the Zextal fleet had been. Captain Mitchell couldn't help but notice how they kept a nervous distance from her crew, as if afraid humans might accidentally redistribute them across quantum space. "You must understand," the Kilarian ambassador, a being of shifting light and energy, spoke through their translator. For millennia, the Zextal dominated through absolute technological superiority. Their crystalline ships were thought to be invincible. Yet in one battle, humanity didn't just defeat them. You fundamentally changed our understanding of reality itself. Thompson, now officially titled Quantum Engineering Director, stepped forward with his latest readings. "The quantum ripples are still teaching us new things. Every time we think we understand the limits of consciousness-driven quantum fields, we discover another layer of possibility." The holographic display showed the region of space where the battle had occurred. Probability waves still danced there, creating patterns that mathematicians would spend decades trying to understand. Occasionally, ghost-like images of Zextal ships would appear before dissolving back into quantum uncertainty. "What happened to their crews?" asked the Merkin delegate, their feathered crest rippling with concern. "Are they dead?" "No," Mitchell answered. "They're experiencing every possibility simultaneously. Our scientists think that with time and research, we might even be able to help them coalesce back into our primary reality. If they choose to return." The implications weren't lost on anyone present. Humanity hadn't just developed a new weapon. They'd discovered a fundamental truth about consciousness and its role in shaping reality. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted overnight. The Ghost Protocol was just the beginning, Thompson explained, bringing up new schematics. "Now that we understand the principles, we're already developing new applications. Quantum communication that works across any distance instantly. Ships that can traverse space through probability rather than conventional propulsion. The possibilities are endless." Lieutenant Rodriguez, recently promoted to Chief of Quantum Operations, added, "But more importantly, we've learned that every human being has this potential naturally. The technology just helps us focus and amplify what we could always do." The aliens exchanged meaningful looks. The Hyperion's victory hadn't just defeated the galaxy's greatest military power. It had demonstrated that humans possessed unique capabilities that other species were only beginning to comprehend. "Earth is already establishing the Quantum Sciences Academy," Mitchell announced. "We're offering to share our knowledge, to help other species understand these principles. The age of quantum consciousness shouldn't belong to humanity alone." A subtle tension left the room. The aliens had been afraid humans would do what the Zextal had done, hoard their advantage, and build an empire. Instead, they were offering partnership. "There will be challenges ahead," Mitchell continued. "We're dealing with fundamental forces we're only beginning to understand. But together, we can explore these new frontiers safely and responsibly." The meeting was interrupted by a sudden alert. The quantum ripples had formed a new pattern, and for a brief moment, a clear message emerged from the probability waves. Fragments of Zextal language translated as, "We understand now." Thompson's instruments went wild. "Captain, the quantum field. It's showing signs of coherent manipulation from within. The Zextal. They're learning. Their consciousness is adapting to quantum space." Mitchell smiled. Perhaps this too had been inevitable. In forcing the Zextal to confront uncertainty, humanity had given them the opportunity to evolve beyond their rigid crystalline nature. "Send a message into the quantum field," she ordered. "Tell them when they're ready to exist in one reality again. We'll be here to talk about everything." As the aliens departed to report to their governments, Mitchell stood with her crew, watching the quantum dance of possibilities in space. The Hyperion had done more than save Earth. It had ushered in a new age of exploration and discovery. "You know what this means," Thompson said quietly. "Reality itself is now our frontier." "Then we'd better get to work," Mitchell replied. "After all, humanity's greatest talent has always been imagining new possibilities, and now we can make them real." Above them, the quantum ripples continued their eternal dance, a reminder that in a universe of infinite possibilities, humanity had finally learned to surf the waves of probability itself.